Today's thus will be a continuation from the previous ones we've been doing. And we've been doing Surah Al-Mu'minun, chapter 23, part 8. We're up to verse number 24. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ فَقَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مَا لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. And we certainly sent Noah to his people, and he said, O my people, worship Allah alone. You have no other God but him. Will you not then seek his protection? So, after explaining the spiritual growth and development of the believers, and some of the favors which Allah bestowed upon man, the surah now deals with the importance of the belief of the unity of God for our spiritual progress. All the prophets of Allah have taught the importance of recognizing the one God and worshipping only him. This is the main duty of a prophet. In the preceding few verses, a brief account was given as to how God has provided for the physical needs of man. From this verse begins an account of the means which God has provided for the satisfaction of man's spiritual needs. The coming of prophets is the first and foremost means provided for this purpose. And we certainly sent Noah to his people, and we said, O my people, worship Allah alone. You have no God but him. Will you not then seek his protection? So Noah was the first great prophet who came with a divine revealed law. He called his people to the one God. Noah was a very ancient prophet who, as the Bible tells us, lived 9 generations after Adam and 11 generations before Abraham. His native land was Mesopotamia. Now here I've got a map of that time and circled that area. So it occupies an area of present-day Iraq and Kuwait, and also parts of Iran, Syria, and Turkey. So that gives you a rough idea of where this land was. The Prophet Noah (alayhi) was particularly known for the flood which overtook his people, which demonstrated how God punishes a people who are wicked. He had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, which are generally believed to be the ancestors of the 3 principal races of mankind. Noah understood that the only real path to success and salvation was through the worship of the one God. Like all prophets, he loved his people, but did not like what they were worshipping. He tried to explain to them that all religious beliefs and teachings revolve around the worship of the one God. Humanity had to pass through 4 cycles to reach its perfect moral and spiritual development. The first cycle was the Prophet Adam (alayhi), where the foundations was laid for human civilization. The second was Noah (alayhi), who was the founder of God's law. The third was Moses (alayhi), who gave the details of that law. And the fourth was the Holy Prophet Muhammad (sallallahu), who completed the law, and man attained the highest peak of social, moral, and spiritual development. The next verse is فَقَالَ الْمَلَأُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ قَوْمِهِ مَا هَٰذَا إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُرِيدُ أَنْ يَتَفَضَّلَ عَلَيْكُمْ وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَأَنزَلَ مَلَائِكَةً مَا سَمِعْنَا بهذا في آبائنا الأولين. And the chiefs of his people who disbelieved said, he is only a man like yourselves. He seeks to make himself superior to you. And if Allah had so willed, he could have surely sent down angels with him. We have never heard of such a thing among our forefathers. So this is a very common objection. The disbelievers look to find ways to reject a prophet and look down at a prophet and say that he's only a mere man like ourselves. Why then should we listen to him? Another objection that they raise is that they have the superiority complex. They are leaders and feel that a prophet is trying to take away their leadership. They look at a prophet as a nobody who desires a position. They fear that he may raise the masses against them. It shows that even in the early times, the belief in angels existed. Normally, the sent down of angels means a punishment. As if Allah sends down any angels, then of course they would look like men. So this is just another excuse by them. As Noah was the next prophet after Adam alayhi salam, then there was no previous history of a prophet coming as a warner. Therefore, they questioned that why is now Noah coming to warn them against what they had seen as their fathers being worshipping. The next verse is, In huwa illa rajulun bihi jinnatun fatarabbasu bihi hatta hin. He is only a man, stricken with madness. Wait, therefore, concerning him for a while. Again, another common objection. To justify rejecting a prophet of Allah, they will make a character assassination to discredit him and ensure that the masses do not listen to him. They will say that he's mad, so why listen to him? Now, in these verses, Noah's opponents have brought 6 objections to reject his message. The first, that he is only a man like themselves. The second, he desired leadership. The third, that no angel had descended from heaven to testify to his truth. The fourth, he went against what the forefathers had been worshipping. The fifth, that he was a madman. And the sixth, he would soon come to grief. All prophets faced these same objections. The next verse is, Qala Rabbin suni bima kadhabun. He said, O my Lord, help me, for they have treated me as a liar. Now, whilst in the Quran such verses seem to come very quickly after the Prophet has given the message, actually there's a lot of time would have passed. We have to bear in mind that the Holy Quran is not a history book. It's not relating everything that was saying at that time. Instead, it's giving a message. Therefore, there's no need to go into lengthy details. Now, Noah, like all prophets, would have kept trying different ways for the leaders to understand his message. But the more he tries, the more firmer they became in their rejection. It is only after trying all avenues to convey the message that when they finally reject, he will turn to Allah for more help. The prophets never want their people punished. They hope and pray that the people will accept their message, but they have to give a warning of the consequences of continuing their immoral path and rejection of the one God. It is only when there is no sign of any change that they call to God for help. The prophets are known for having a good, truthful character. They never lie, and are not known as liars. Allah always protects his prophets from such weaknesses. Noah was also known for being truthful It was only after announcing his mission that to try to turn the people away from him, so they started calling him a liar. Despite all these arguments and appeals, the people rejected the prophet Noah and began to treat him as a liar, for they were a blind people and could not see and understand the evidence and the proofs of his truth. The leaders rallied the people to turn against him and reject his message. The next verse is, فَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ أَنِ اصْنَعِ الْفُلْكَ بِأَعْيُنِنَا وَوَحْيِنَا فَإِذَا جَاءَ أَمْرُنَا فَفَارَقْتَ النُّورَ فَاسْلُكْ فِيهَا مِنْ كُلٍّ زَوْجَيْنِ اثْنَيْنِ وَأَهْلَكَ إِلَّا مَنْ سَبَقَ عَلَيْهِ الْقَوْلُ مِنْهُمْ وَلَا تُخَاطِبْنِي فِي الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا إِنَّهُمْ مُغْرَقُونَ. So we sent revelation to him, saying, make the ark under our eyes, and according to our revelation. And when our command comes, and the fountains of the earth gush forth, take thou into it 2 of every kind, male and female, and thy family, except those of them against whom the word has already gone forth, and address me not concerning those who have done wrong, they shall be drowned. Now there are some different opinions relating to Noah. The first one being, who got punished? The Bible indicates that the flood covered the whole world, but prophets are only sent to their own people, as the Holy Quran relates in chapter 7, verse 60, that we sent Noah to his people. It would therefore be wrong to punish a people to whom a warner has not been sent. Therefore, the flood overtook only the people to whom Noah was sent. It was not universal. But the descendants of Noah may have carried the tale to distant lands. This is why we find records of it all over the world. Allah was told by Allah through revelation to build the ark. He, his family, and his followers would have carried out this work. Now, whilst they built it, the people mocked him, but he was being protected by Allah. The followers of a prophet have to go through a lot of abuse, suffering, and persecution, but this actually makes them stronger. Therefore, it wasn't just a physical ark, but also a spiritual ark that they were building and getting strengthened through the blessings and protection of Allah. Noah lived in a mountainous country, where springs were found in abundance. The flood came after there was extreme heavy rain that continued for a long time. This resulted in the rivers and springs overfilling and the whole land flooding. Noah's people would have settled at the bottom of this mountain region and ignored the heavy rain at first. But with the river banks bursting and the springs gushing forth water, this may have caused great difficulties in climbing the mountain. The quick build-up of water must have caused a sort of tsunami effect, and a massive wave of water come down from the mountain and knocked the people back into the bottom, which was now flooded, causing them to die. The word all does not here mean all the animals of the earth. It only means all such animals as Noah needed. The ark certainly was not big enough to carry a pair of all kinds of animals found in the world. The different animals would have been separated so that they were not eaten by other animals nor stepped upon, etc. To make so many different compartments would have required a very huge ark, but as already mentioned, it was only for that area. Likewise, mentioning 2 of every kind also shows that it meant that as few animals were to be taken as were absolutely necessary. Now here, except those of them against whom the word has already gone forth, and address me not concerning those who have done wrong, they shall be drowned. The expression against whom the word has already gone forth refers to those rejectors of truth whose destruction had already been decreed. The words address me not mean do not intercede with me. Now, in spite of this clear divine commandment, Noah did actually pray to God to save his son. This shows that he did not regard the divine commandment contained in the words against whom the word has already gone forth as applicable to his own son. This was an error of judgment on Noah's part, and all prophets are liable to make such errors. Naturally, any parent would have wanted to save his son, and also maybe be blinded by love for the mistakes of the son. Again, it also shows that Allah will judge everyone for what they do, not for who the parents are. So we see that there are few examples of a son or wife of a prophet, etc., being caught up in the punishment from Allah. The next verse. فَإِذَا اسْتَوَيْتَ أَنْتَ وَمَنْ مَعَكَ عَلَى الْفُلْكِ فَقُولِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي نَجَّانَا مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. And when thou hast settled on the ark, thou and those who are with thee say, all praise belongs to Allah, who has saved us from the unjust people. It is very important that when Allah's punishment, when it comes to a people, his righteous servants are saved, so that there's a distinction that can be made, and people realize that this is definitely a punishment from God, and not just a natural disaster where anyone may die. Therefore, Allah always saves his righteous servants. The next verse, verse 30. وَقُلْ رَبِّي أَنزِلْنِي مُنْزَلًا مُبَارَكًا وَأَنْتَ خَيْرُ الْمُنْزِلِينَ. And when thou disembark from the ark, say, my Lord, cause me to land a blessing landing, for thou art the best of those who bring people to land. Now, according to the Bible, Noah's ark rested on the mountains of Ararat, Genesis verses 8-4. But according to the Holy Quran, it rested on Al-Judi. The mountain Al-Judi, which is mentioned in chapter 11, verse 45, is a long chain of mountains on the eastern side of the Tigris. It can mean a place where God's mercy was manifested. So here I try to show you and also give you some idea. You can see India there and Arabia. So it's just above Arabia. Verse number 31. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ وَإِن كُنَّا لَمُبْتَلِينَ. Verily, in this there are signs. Surely we did try the people of Noah. The sign of punishment of Noah is known throughout the world as a warning for people who go against God. God tried the people of Noah first by bestowing favors upon them, and then by visiting them with punishment when they showed their ingratitude by rejecting his messenger. Verse number 32. ثم أنشأنا من بعدهم قرنا آخرين. Then we raised after them another generation. The reference in the words another generation is to Ad, the people of the Prophet Hud. The conditions and circumstances of the people of Noah closely resemble the people of Hud. Verse number 33. فَأَرْسَلْنَا فِيهِمْ رُسُلًا مِّنْهُمْ أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مَا لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. And we sent among them a messenger from amongst themselves with a message. Serve Allah, you have no God other than Him. Will you not then fear God? Over time, the people forgot the message of the prophets of Allah and turned to other things to worship and became materialistic. As mankind start to prosper, they run after the worldly possessions, and that becomes the whole focus. Allah sends His messengers with the same basic message to worship the one God and follow His commandments and serve Him. This same pattern is repeated over and over again. Man does not learn from the past and gets lost in worldly things. Therefore, God continues to send His messengers to call them back to Him and help them realize the real significance and importance of divine worship. So now this ends the dars, and we're opening up for questions or any comments. Again, I've got the verses there for you to remind you to see what the verses we've covered today. So now the ball's in your court for any questions or comments.
Jazakumullah, Rabbi Sahib. We've got a few questions there. First question we've got is, it says, did Noah alayhi salam had any book?
We don't know. It's not mentioned, obviously, in the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran only mentions 5 books: the Suhuf of Ibrahim, the Torah of Moses, Zabur of the Prophet David, the Injil of Jesus, and of course the Holy Quran. But of course, just like the Holy Quran only mentions 23 prophets, and there was hundreds of thousands of prophets, so there were many, many books. So whatever book, if Noah had a book or a message, that has been lost over time. There's no record of it. So we don't really know what Moses taught. The only thing that the Holy Quran reveals is that he emphasized the importance of worshiping the one God and obviously to follow the commandments of God. So we don't know, but presumably whether there was a book or not, there were certainly messages which he gave some laws to the people.
Jazakallah. Another question there is, it says, it is said that Noah alayhi salam lived for 950 years. What is the reality behind that?
I mean, generally, we believe that when we get this sort of term, it's not the person. Although the Bible claims it's him, of course, we know that man does not normally live for so long. And so why would it happen in those days? So what we say is it's a dispensation of Noah. That lasted 950 years until the next prophet comes. So from the time he first came, 950 years passed, then the next prophet come. So this is how we would look at it, not that he actually lived so long. Some people would say that the atmosphere at that time allowed people to live much longer, but this we don't believe. We just believe it's his dispensation, and we reject this idea that he was a 950-year-old man.
Jazakallah. Another question there, Murad, you mentioned about Noah's son being punished. They want to ask, was only one of his sons punished or more than one?
As far as we understand, it's talking about one son. Now, again, there is some dispute about whether it was actually his son or one of his near relatives, which are regarded as a son, which have been a close family member. Again, we're not sure because we can only go by what the Holy Quran is saying. And the Holy Quran, although not in the verses that I mentioned, but in other parts of the Holy Quran, it just mentions the son. It doesn't mention which son. And so we don't know. But we think that because his sons, they spread the message far and wide. So maybe it wasn't actually his real son. say it could have been his nephew or something like that, which he regarded as a son. Again, we're unsure because it's not clear in the Bible, so we don't know for sure.
Okay, Jazakallah. Another question, it says, do we know how long was Prophet Noah on the ark?
Oh, now there's a thing. I'm trying to think what the Bible says now. Was it about 40 days? It's 40 days is coming from my mind. I'm not sure. According to the Bible, Noah was there, and eventually the dove came with a twig in its mouth, and that was a sign that now the water had started to recede. How long it was, again, it's not mentioned in the Holy Quran, and it does mention in the Bible, but the length of time, I'm not sure. It's not in my mind. I need to check on that. But it was some time. We don't know for how long, but it was for a little while. Certainly enough for the people to all drown.
Right, Jazakallah. Another question there: will the Noah's Ark will ever be it will ever be found, or?
Well, there is claims that they did find it on Al Judi. If I remember the commentary right now, I think there was also a monastery that was built around there. Obviously, I mean, we don't know what it was built of, but it was more than likely it was built of wood. So the actual ark itself wouldn't have survived the time of man. But there was, if I remember right, the commentary I haven't read up on it recently, but there was some evidence of in the past where people found some evidence of the Noah's Ark, and I think a picture that I showed sort of the shape where it could have rested on. But the actual ark itself, obviously, that would have been wood that would have been destroyed by now. So it wouldn't be now there. But I think, if I remember right, reading the commentaries, that there was evidence in the past of it, but not now, no.
Right, Jazakallah. Rabbi Sahib, you've got a couple of questions which are not related to the dars, but I'll still present them to you.
Yeah,
so one of the, just give me a second. One of the questions is about the beads of tasbih. How did it start, and should we use the beads of tasbih to, do the tasbihs? How did it start? They want to know who started this.
As far as I'm aware, I've never come across any evidence that this was started by the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He didn't have any such beads. It would have been later on when they were trying to obviously do the zikrullah, the remembrance, and it's a means of counting 99 names. So, of course, we find similar sort of things, the rosemary in Catholicism and things like that. Maybe again with the contact of the Christians and finding them having these sort of beads, maybe that's where it started. We don't know. The main thing with this is not the actual number. We shouldn't get too lost in counting, and that's why they had the beads, so they don't really have to think about the counting as such. The main thing is the zikrullah itself, thinking about Allah, pondering over His attributes as you are reciting the zikrullah. So whether you do actually 100 or 99 is not necessary, but well, no, it's 100. But obviously, this is why they have this, so that they can just count without counting. But many people will use their fingers and try and count like that. But like I say, we don't have to get too lost in the actual number. The main thing is pondering over what you're saying and thinking about God and thinking about His attributes. So when you're saying Alhamdulillah or Allahu Akbar or Subhanallah, thinking about that and thinking about what it actually means, rather than just counting numbers and getting lost in counting numbers. But when it started, I don't know. I think, like I say, maybe when the Muslims started mixing with the Christians at some point afterwards, but it wasn't, as far as I know, during the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Certainly not his practice. And I can't think of any hadith of any of his Sahaba doing it. So I think it's after that time.
Jazakallah. So another question there: how should we pray in the last 10 days of Ramadan in order to find Laylatul Qadr, and how do we know that the night is actually the night of Laylatul Qadr?
I mean, obviously, Allah listens to your prayers at all times. this is just, again, during the last 10 days, we're told to fasten or tighten our waist belt and do more of everything. So more reading the Quran, more prayers and things like this, getting up early and so on and so forth. Now, obviously the hadith says it's on the odd nights, but I think anytime Allah can speak to people. And this is my own experience. I do the etikaf, and I found with some people that they tell me that they've seen Laylatul Qadr. And then on another day, other people said they've seen Laylatul Qadr. So I think personally it's unique to your own self. At the end of the day, again, we look at the world, and in England, it's different time zone to Australia and things like this, sometimes different days. So when you say that the angels come down in the last third of the night, that will be the last third throughout the day at different areas in the world. So it's for you, your own particular Laylatul Qadr, rather than, saying, well, this is a fixed day and only on this day Allah's going to answer your prayers. I think Allah will answer your prayers as long as you're sincere. Why not? So it can be for different people, and possibly even you may have experienced Laylatul Qadr, and then again experience it. Why not? So we're not just saying Allah's limited and can just speak to you one time. So the main thing is to seek it out. That's what we should be emphasizing on. So during this time, spend more time praying. And this is why actually I like doing etikaf as well, because it gives me more chance, more efforts to get up early and pray harder. So that's the main thing what Allah wants to see, that you are spending more time over Ramadan. You've got the first 10 days and the second 10 days. And then as you're moving along and getting more used to this, you should be making more and more effort, so that this last 10 days, you put more and more effort into it to seek out Laylatul Qadr, to get that closeness to Allah. That's the main thing, not whether you receive a revelation of Allah or not, but to feel that closeness with Allah. And that should happen in your prayers. You should really start enjoying the prayers much more in these last 10 days, because you've gone through that first 20 days of sacrificing the food and drink and developing yourself. And now it's coming to fruition in this last 10 days. So again, don't get too lost on actual day. Just keep seeking Allah, and inshallah it can happen. Whether it's an odd day, even day, whatever, Allah can speak to you. So that's the main thing, is to attain the closeness of Allah.
Jazakumullah, Rabbi Sahab. That were all the questions we had. Jazakallah for your time. May Allah bless you for your efforts and your time. We can conclude there. Can I please request you to lead us in silent prayer in the end?
Right. And I think next week it's going to be Imam Sahib again on Sunday?
Yes. So next Sunday, our dars will be with Imam Atal Mujib Rashid Sahib. And I will be sending out the times and the YouTube link again.
Great. Okay. Jazakallah. Okay. So please join me in silent prayer. Bismillah. Ameen. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
رمضان يا خير الشهور يا فضل رحمن غفور فيك البشائر غيثها يهدي السعادة والسرور أدرك مجيئك نعمة يحيي التراحم والشعور اقبل إلهي صومنا وقيامنا أنت الشكور